The massive Galactic Council chamber hummed with tension as thick as plasma fog. Ambassador Sarah Chun adjusted her formal diplomatic robes, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders like a collapsed star. Around the circular amphitheater, representatives from 12 different species occupied their designated sections, each more alien and intimidating than the last. The Crayathon delegation dominated the eastern quadrant with their towering, crystalline forms that reflected the chamber's bioluminescent lighting in sharp, angular patterns. Their ambassador, Xra, stood nearly 3 meters tall, its translucent body crackling with barely contained energy that made the air itself taste of copper and ozone. The creature's voice resonated through built-in translators, creating an unsettling harmony that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The human petition for membership in the Galactic Council is unprecedented, Zhuaixtara announced, its form shifting colors from deep purple to threatening crimson. Never before has a species achieved interstellar capability while maintaining such primitive social structures and violent tendencies. Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her hands clenched slightly beneath the ceremonial table. Beside her sat Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's foremost xenobiologist, and Admiral Torres, whose weathered face bore the scars of humanity's first contact wars. The three of them represented Earth's entire diplomatic mission to the galactic community, a responsibility that felt increasingly impossible with each passing moment. The Veltar representative, a creature resembling a massive mantis with iridescent wings, clicked its mandibles in what passed for agreement among its species. The preliminary reports indicate humans engage in recreational violence, maintain weapons for entertainment, and practice something called extreme sports that deliberately court injury and death. Such behavior patterns suggest an inherently unstable civilization. Admiral Torres leaned forward slightly, his voice carrying the weight of authority earned through decades of military service. With respect, honored delegates, every species represented in this chamber has a history of conflict. The difference is that humanity has learned to channel our competitive nature into constructive pursuits while maintaining the strength necessary to defend ourselves and our allies. A ripple of what might have been laughter emanated from the Skrull delegation, though the sound resembled grinding stone more than any human expression of mirth. Their ambassador, a creature that looked like an ambulatory boulder with too many eyes, spoke through a translation device that made its words sound like an avalanche in slow motion. Humans speak of strength, yet they bring no demonstration of their capabilities. We're your war forms, your battle constructs, your weapons of submission. The Skrull's multiple eyes focused on Sarah with predatory intensity. You arrive at these proceedings with nothing but soft flesh and weaker words. Sarah felt her heart rate spike, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. This was exactly what they had prepared for during the 6-month journey to the Council Station. Humanity had been invited to present their case for membership, but the invitation had come with warnings about the nature of galactic politics. Strength was the only currency that mattered in the wider galaxy, and species earned respect through displays of power rather than philosophical arguments. Dr. Webb cleared his throat delicately. If I may address the distinguished assembly, humans have brought representatives of our capabilities. However, we prefer to demonstrate our strength through partnership rather than intimidation. The chamber fell silent except for the low hum of the station's massive engines. Sarah could feel the attention of hundreds of alien intelligences focusing on their small delegation like the gathered energy before a lightning strike. This was the moment they had planned for, the calculated risk that would either secure humanity's place among the stars or condemn Earth to isolation. She activated a small device on the table before her, sending a signal that would change everything. The chamber's main entrance dilated with a soft pneumatic hiss, and Major David Reeves stepped through the threshold. He moved with the controlled grace of a career soldier, his dress uniform immaculate despite the long journey from the docking bay. But It wasn't the human that drew every alien eye in the chamber. Beside Major Reeves padded a massive Siberian tiger, its orange and black stripes seeming to glow under the alien lighting. The great cat moved with fluid power, each step deliberate and purposeful. Its yellow eyes swept the chamber with intelligent assessment, showing no fear or submission despite being surrounded by creatures that defied earthly description. Behind them, staying close to Major Reeves' left side, walked a tiger cub that couldn't have been more than 6 months old. The young cat displayed none of the adult's calculated wariness, instead looking around the chamber with obvious curiosity and playful energy. The effect on the assembled delegates was immediate and dramatic. The Crayathon delegation's crystalline forms shifted rapidly through the spectrum from confidence purple to uncertainty yellow. The Veltar representative spread its wings in what Sarah recognized as a defensive posture, while several smaller species actually moved backward in their seating areas. Major Reeves stopped at the center of the chamber floor, the adult tiger settling beside him with the kind of casual grace that spoke of absolute confidence. The cub investigated a nearby holographic display with a fearless curiosity that only the young possess. "Distinguished delegates of the Galactic Council," Sarah began, rising from her seat. "Allow me to introduce Major David Reeves, Khan, and Khan's offspring, Sasha. They represent one of humanity's most important diplomatic traditions, the bond between warrior and beast that has defined our species for thousands of years." The Skrull ambassador's multiple eyes fixed on Khan with something that might have been respect. This creature radiates predator essence. Its presence affects the chamber's atmospheric readings. But it is only one beast, and small compared to our war forms. Major Reeves stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, without need for amplification. "Khan is not a war form or a constructed weapon. He is my partner, my friend, and my family. We have served together for 8 years, in conflicts and in peace. The bond between us represents something that your species may find difficult to understand, the willing alliance between apex predators." As if responding to some unspoken signal, Khan rose and moved to investigate the Veltar delegation. The mantis-like creatures tensed visibly, their translucent wings beginning to vibrate with nervous energy. But Khan simply sniffed the air near their section with polite interest before returning to Major Reeves' side. Sasha, meanwhile, had discovered that one of the holographic displays responded to movement. The cub began swatting at the light patterns with obvious delight, completely unimpressed by the gathered representatives of galactic civilization. Dr. Webb activated his portable scanner, letting its readings display on the chamber's main screen. "What you're seeing here is something unique in the galaxy, a voluntary symbiotic relationship between two apex predator species. Khan chooses to work with humans not because he has been conditioned or controlled, but because he recognizes us as worthy packmates." The readings showed Khan's stress levels, brain activity, and biochemical markers. Every measurement indicated a relaxed, confident animal showing no signs of coercion or fear-based conditioning. ZYX-Thra's crystalline form shifted to interrogation orange. "This is impossible. Predator species do not form stable alliances. They compete for dominance until one submits or dies." Major Reeves smiled, and there was something predatory in the expression that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. "That's where you're wrong, Khan, and I don't compete for dominance because we understand something that apparently isn't common in galactic civilization. True strength comes from willing cooperation between equals." To demonstrate his point, Major Reeves gave a subtle hand signal. Khan immediately moved to a specific position, not with the mechanical obedience of a trained animal, but with the fluid coordination of a partner who understood the plan. Another signal, and the great cat demonstrated a series of movements that showcased not only his physical capabilities, but his intelligence and tactical awareness. Throughout the demonstration, Sasha continued playing with the holographic displays, occasionally pouncing on her father's tail when it moved past her position. The contrast between the adult tiger's professional competence and the cub's playful energy created a dynamic that seemed to confuse and fascinate the alien delegates in equal measure. The hegemony representative, a species that resembled a cross between a spider and a computer terminal, finally spoke through its mechanical translation system. The biochemical evidence supports the human claims. The large predator shows no stress markers typically associated with force compliance. However, this raises disturbing implications about human nature itself. Sarah sees the opening. The implications are that humanity has learned to build alliances based on mutual respect and shared purpose rather than domination and submission. We don't conquer our environment or the creatures within it. We find ways to work together toward common goals. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated voices as delegates began discussing this revelation among themselves. The concept seemed to be as alien to them as their various forms were to human perception. Admiral Torres stood, his military bearing commanding attention. Every species in this chamber achieved spaceflight through conquest, either of their environment, other species on their worlds, or both. Humanity reached the stars through cooperation. We didn't simply survive our planet's dangers. We learned to work with them. The Skrull ambassador's grinding voice cut through the discussion. You speak of cooperation, yet your military records show extensive conflict among your own species. Absolutely true, Major Reeves replied without hesitation. Humans fight each other when we disagree about important things. But we also fight alongside each other when we face external threats. Khan and I have been in combat together against hostile wildlife, enemy soldiers, and natural disasters. Our partnership has been tested under conditions that would break artificial bonds. As if to emphasize the point, Khan moved closer to Major Reeves and briefly rested his massive head against the human's leg, a gesture of affection that registered clearly on every scanner in the chamber. Sasha, apparently deciding she had been ignored long enough, let out a squeaky roar that drew chuckle from the human delegation and uncertain responses from several alien species who had never encountered juvenile playfulness as a behavioral pattern. The Crayathon delegates' form shifted through several colors before settling on contemplative blue-green. This demonstration raises questions about human military capabilities. If you can form genuine alliances with apex predators, what does this suggest about your combat effectiveness? Sarah exchanged glances with her colleagues. They had anticipated this question, and the answer would require careful handling. Major Reeves and Khan represent just one example of human-animal partnerships, she explained. Our military units often include similar teams, each adapted to specific operational requirements. The bond you're witnessing isn't rare among humans. It's representative of our general approach to problem-solving. Dr. Webb added, our preliminary surveys suggest this type of interspecies cooperation is virtually unknown in galactic civilization. Most species either domesticate through genetic manipulation or maintain purely utilitarian relationships with other life forms. The implications hung in the chamber's recycled air like a challenge. Humanity wasn't just asking for membership in the Galactic Council. They were presenting a fundamentally different approach to existence that called into question the assumptions underlying galactic civilization itself. The session continued for several more hours, with delegates asking increasingly technical questions about human society, military organization, and the philosophical implications of cooperative evolution. Khan remained patient throughout the proceedings, occasionally shifting position, but maintaining his alert, confident demeanor. Sasha eventually fell asleep curled against her father's flank, providing an image of peaceful trust that several delegates found profoundly unsettling. As the formal session drew to a close, Sarah realized they had accomplished something unprecedented. They hadn't simply demonstrated human capabilities. They had introduced concepts that might change how an entire galaxy thought about strength, cooperation, and the meaning of civilization itself. But she also understood that this was only the beginning. The real test would come in the challenges that followed, and she suspected that humanity's unique approach to partnership will be put to trials that none of them could yet imagine. 3 days after the initial presentation, the real test began. Sarah Chun found herself standing in the Council's combat assessment facility, a massive arena designed to evaluate the military capabilities of potential member species. The circular chamber stretched nearly 200 meters in diameter, with tiered seating for observers and holographic projectors capable of creating any environment imaginable. The Crayathon delegation had formally challenged humanity's membership application, invoking an ancient council protocol that required new species to demonstrate their combat effectiveness against a series of standardized threats. Sarah had expected this challenge. Their intelligence sources had warned that the Crayathon rarely accepted new members without forcing them through what amounted to a trial by combat. Admiral Torres stood beside her, reviewing the challenge parameters on a portable display. "They're not making this easy for us," he muttered, scrolling through the list of scenarios. Hostile environment survival, coordinated assault defense, and something called predator supremacy trials that doesn't have any clear definition in the database. Dr. Webb looked up from his own scanner, where he had been monitoring Khan's vital signs. "The Tiger's stress levels are actually decreasing as we approach combat scenarios. His biochemistry suggests anticipation rather than anxiety." Major Reeves was conducting a final equipment check with the methodical precision of a veteran soldier. His gear had been adapted for the trials. Lightweight body armor that wouldn't restrict movement, communication equipment designed to work in the arena's electromagnetic environment, and a selection of weapons that represented human military technology without revealing classified capabilities. Khan paced nearby with fluid grace, his massive form radiating confidence and controlled energy. The Great Cat had been through similar exercises during his training with military units, though never in an environment quite like this. His golden eyes swept the arena floor with tactical assessment, identifying cover points and potential threats with the instinct of an apex predator. Sasha remained in the observation area with Sarah and the diplomatic team, her young eyes wide with curiosity as alien spectators filled the tiered seating. The cub had become something of a sensation among the Council Station's inhabitants, drawing attention wherever she went. Her playful energy and fearless approach to new experiences had already created more positive publicity for humanity than traditional diplomatic channels might have achieved. The arena's central holographic system activated with a soft chime, and Ziwa translated voice filled the chamber. "The first trial will assess human capability against a standard hostile environment. The scenario replicates the surface of Keth Prime during storm season, a proving ground that has tested warrior species for 3 centuries. The arena floor shimmered and transformed, creating the illusion of a barren landscape under a sky filled with roiling, toxic clouds. Lightning that would have been deadly to most carbon-based life forms crackled overhead, while the simulated ground began generating hazards designed to test mobility, endurance, and tactical thinking. Geysers of corrosive gas erupted at random intervals. Predatory plants with metallic teeth emerged from concealed positions, and the very air became thick with particles that would challenge respiratory systems. The temperature fluctuated wildly between extremes that would kill most unprotected life forms within minutes. Major Reeves and Khan entered the simulation zone together, moving with the coordinated precision of a well-rehearsed team. The human immediately began scanning for environmental threats, while the tiger used his superior senses to detect dangers that technology might miss. Their partnership became immediately apparent as they navigated the hostile terrain. When Khan detected the chemical signature of a predatory plant preparing to emerge, a subtle shift in his posture warned Major Reeves to change direction. When a human's equipment detected an incoming lightning strike, his movement guided Khan away from the danger zone without requiring verbal communication. The alien spectators watched in fascination as the pair demonstrated survival techniques that relied on the strengths of both species. Major Reeves used his tools and technology to overcome environmental hazards while Khan's natural abilities provided sensory input and physical capabilities that no human technology could replicate. "Look at how they move together," Dr. Webb whispered to Sarah, pointing at his scanner readings. Khan's stress indicators show he's actually calmer in the hostile environment than he was waiting for the trial to begin. He trusts Major Reeves completely. The first scenario concluded successfully after Major Reeves and Khan navigated a series of increasingly complex hazards, from acid rainstorms to terrain that shifted without warning. They emerged from the simulation zone showing signs of exertion, but no significant distress. The Veltar representative clicked its mandibles with what Sarah had learned to recognize as surprised approval. The human-beast partnership demonstrates efficiency that exceeds our predictive models. However, the true test of predator species comes not from environmental survival, but from direct confrontation. The arena's systems reset, and the holographic environment shifted to simulate an urban battlefield. Structures rose from the floor, buildings, vehicles, and obstacles that created a complex three-dimensional combat environment. The scenario briefing indicated that Major Reeves and Khan would face automated opponents designed to replicate the combat capabilities of hostile alien species. "This trial assesses coordinated assault capabilities," announced the scrawled delegate, its grinding voice carrying a note of anticipation. "The targets will employ tactics based on successful galactic military doctrines. Survival requires both individual skill and effective cooperation." The simulation activated, and immediately the arena filled with threats that moved with predatory intelligence. Robotic constructs designed to mimic various alien combat forms began hunting through the artificial cityscape, their sensors tracking heat signatures, movement patterns, and electromagnetic emissions. Major Reeves adapted his strategy to the urban environment, using buildings for cover, while Khan employed his natural stealth abilities to move through areas where human technology might be detected. Their coordination reached a level that seemed almost telepathic, each member of the team anticipating the other's needs and capabilities with precision born from years of partnership. When they encountered the first group of hostile constructs, the effectiveness of their cooperation became apparent to every observer in the chamber. Major Reeves engaged the mechanical opponents with calculated aggression, using his weapons and tactical training to create opportunities for Khan to exploit. The tiger struck with devastating effectiveness, his natural hunting instincts perfectly adapted to artificial prey that relied on predictable programming rather than animal intuition. "Impossible," breathed the hegemony representative, its mechanical voice carrying notes of genuine surprise. "The biological entity is outperforming our combat algorithms. Its response patterns do not match any known behavioral model." Dr. Webb smiled grimly. "That's because Khan isn't following a programmed response pattern. He's thinking, adapting, and improvising based on the immediate tactical situation. You can't create algorithms that replicate genuine intelligence and creative problem solving." The trial continued for nearly an hour as Major Reeves and Khan faced increasingly sophisticated opposition. Each wave of mechanical opponents employed different tactical approaches. Some relied on overwhelming firepower, others on stealth and surprise, still others on coordinated group tactics designed to exploit the perceived weaknesses of biological entities. But the partnership between human and tiger proved adaptable to every challenge. When faced with overwhelming firepower, they used mobility and environmental cover to negate the advantage. Against stealth opponents, Khan's superior senses provided early warning, while Major Reeves' technology offered precision response capabilities. Coordinated group tactics were defeated through their own coordination, as human intelligence and feline instinct combined to identify and exploit weaknesses in enemy formations. The final wave of opponents included constructs designed specifically to test predator responses, artificial prey that led pursuers into traps, mechanical hunters that used advanced camouflage, and tactical scenarios that required split-second decisions between competing priorities. Khan faced each challenge with the confidence of an apex predator who had never learned to fear artificial threats. When mechanical prey attempted to lead him into a trap, he used his intelligence to recognize the deception while allowing Major Reeves to position himself advantageously. When advanced camouflage made targets difficult to detect, the Tiger's non-visual senses provided information that no scanning equipment could match. The most challenging scenario came when the simulation created a situation requiring Major Reeves and Khan to protect a simulated civilian population while defeating multiple groups of opponents simultaneously. The trial tested not only their combat effectiveness, but their ability to prioritize defensive objectives over personal survival. Their response demonstrated something that clearly surprised the alien observers. Major Reeves immediately shifted his tactics to defensive positioning, using his weapons and equipment to create protective barriers around the simulated civilians. Khan adapted his approach from hunting to guarding, positioning himself to intercept threats that approached the protected area. The effectiveness of their defensive coordination exceeded the simulation's parameters. Working together, they created overlapping fields of protection that kept the artificial civilians safe while eliminating threats with mechanical precision. Their willingness to accept personal risk to protect others registered clearly on every scanner in the observation area. As the second trial concluded, Sarah could see the alien delegates engaging in intense discussions among themselves. The concept of apex predators voluntarily accepting defensive rather than aggressive priorities clearly challenged their understanding of biological behavior. But the most dramatic moment came during the arena's reset period, when a malfunction in the holographic systems created a genuine emergency. Toxic gases began leaking from damaged equipment, while electrical discharges from failing generators created real hazards that threatened everyone in the combat area. Khan's response was immediate and instinctive. Instead of seeking safety for himself, the Great Cat moved toward the observation area where Sasha waited with the human delegation. His protective instincts prioritized the cub's safety over his own, just as Major Reeves immediately began working to secure the hazardous equipment that threatened civilian observers. The genuine emergency lasted only minutes before automated safety systems contained the danger, but the response patterns displayed by both human and Tiger created an impression that would influence every subsequent discussion about humanity's application for council membership. Dr. Webb scanners recorded every detail of the incident, documenting stress responses, decision-making patterns, and behavioral priorities during an actual crisis rather than a simulated trial. The data showed conclusively that both species placed protective instincts above personal survival when confronted with threats to their pack members. This changes everything, the Crayathon delegate admitted, its crystalline form shifting through colors that indicated profound confusion. Predator species that prioritize pack protection over individual survival represent a threat paradigm we have not previously encountered. Admiral Torres stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had faced genuine life-or-death decisions. You're correct that this changes everything, but not in the way you think. Humanity doesn't represent a threat to galactic civilization. We represent an opportunity to make it stronger. The arena systems completed their emergency shutdown, leaving the delegates in an environment lit only by backup illumination. In the dim light, Khan could be seen lying protectively near Sasha's position, while Major Reeves completed a final safety inspection of the damaged equipment. The image perfectly captured the essence of humanity's application to the Galactic Council. Strength used in service of protection rather than domination, cooperation that enhanced rather than diminished individual capabilities, and loyalty that extended beyond immediate self-interest. Sarah realized that they had achieved something more significant than successful completion of the trials. They had demonstrated capabilities that challenged the fundamental assumptions about predator behavior that govern galactic civilization. But She also understood that such challenges would inevitably provoke responses from species that saw cooperative predators as a threat to their own dominance-based societies. The real trials were just beginning, and the stakes were higher than simple council membership. The next phase would test not only human capabilities, but the galaxy's willingness to accept revolutionary changes to the way intelligent species understood strength, cooperation, and the meaning of civilization itself. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened under circumstances that no member species had anticipated. Sarah Chun stood before the assembled delegates in the same chamber where humanity had first presented their case. But the atmosphere had changed dramatically. Fear and uncertainty permeated the recycled air like an infectious disease, and she could see the effects in every alien physiological response around the amphitheater. 3 hours earlier, long-range sensors had detected an approaching fleet of unknown composition moving toward the Council Station at velocities that exceeded any known propulsion technology. The ships appeared to be of Void Stalker origin, a species that had been extinct for over 1,000 years, wiped out during the last Great Galactic War when their expansionist aggression finally provoked a coalition of every other intelligent species in the galaxy. Admiral Torres reviewed the sensor data with growing concern. The approaching fleet showed technological signatures that defied current understanding of physics and engineering. If the readings were accurate, the Void Stalkers had not only survived their supposed extinction, but had advanced their capabilities far beyond anything in the historical records. Impossible, insisted Dexra, though the Crayathon delegates' crystalline form displayed distress patterns that contradicted its words. The Voidstalker species was completely eliminated. Every world, every ship, every trace of their civilization was systematically destroyed by the combined fleets of the Grand Alliance. The Skrull ambassadors' multiple eyes focused on holographic displays showing the approaching vessels. Historical records confirmed total extermination protocols were successfully completed. These readings must represent sensor malfunction or artificial deception. Dr. Webb looked up from his portable analysis equipment, his expression grim. The electromagnetic signatures are consistent with historical Void Stalker technology, but enhanced beyond theoretical limitations. Whatever's approaching us represents either survived remnants with 1,000 years of technological development or something else entirely using their design principles. Major Reeves stood beside the central display, Khan at his side in the relaxed attention stance that indicated readiness for immediate action. The Great Cat's senses had been detecting something unusual for the past several hours. Subtle vibrations through the station's structure that suggested massive vessels maneuvering in nearby space. Sasha remained close to her father, the young tiger's playful energy subdued by the tension radiating from every adult in the chamber. Even at her age, she could sense that the pack was preparing for danger, and her instincts responded accordingly. The fleet will achieve weapons range in approximately 6 hours, reported the hegemony representative, its mechanical translation system adding electronic distortion that made the announcement even more ominous. Council Defense Forces are mobilizing, but preliminary projections indicate insufficient capability to repel a full-scale Void Stalker assault. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. The Void Stalkers had been the galactic equivalent of a natural disaster, a species that conquered through total destruction rather than domination, leaving nothing but emptiness in their wake. Their technology had been so advanced that defeating them had required the combined resources of every other species in known space. And, even then, the victory had been achieved only through massive sacrifices that traumatized galactic civilization for centuries. The irony was not lost on her that humanity's first major crisis as potential council members involved facing the very species whose aggression had originally unified the galaxy under cooperative principles. Honored delegates, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. Humanity offers our full support in defending the council station and coordinating response efforts. While our fleet assets are limited, we have capabilities that may prove useful in unconventional warfare scenarios. The Veltar representative spread its iridescent wings in agitation. Human vessels number fewer than a dozen in this system. Voidstalker fleets historically operated with thousands of ships employing technology that rendered conventional weapons ineffective. Admiral Torres stepped forward, his military bearing radiating confidence despite the desperate circumstances. Numbers aren't everything in warfare. Effective strategy requires understanding your enemy's weaknesses as well as their strengths. The historical records suggest that Voidstalkers relied on technological superiority and overwhelming force, but they may not have experience facing opponents who use cooperative tactics. The chamber erupted in translated discussions as delegates considered the implications. The concept of cooperative military tactics remained alien to most galactic species, who approached warfare through either individual prowess or hierarchical command structures that emphasize dominance relationships. Major Reeves activated his communication equipment, establishing contact with the human fleet elements positioned throughout the system. Admiral, this is Major Reeves. Request immediate tactical assessment of approaching hostile forces. The response came through clearly enough for the Council's translation systems to process. Major, this is Captain Morrison aboard the UES Harmony. We're tracking 7 vessels of unknown configuration approaching at 0.8 light speed. Their energy signatures exceed anything in our database, but we're detecting some unusual patterns that might represent vulnerabilities. Dr. Webb connected his analysis equipment to the chamber's display systems, sharing real-time data from the human fleet's sensor arrays. Our ships are equipped with scanning technology optimized for biological research rather than military reconnaissance. We're detecting organic components integrated into the Voidstalker vessels that don't match historical records. The implications registered immediately among the assembled delegates. Voidstalker technology had always been purely mechanical, relying on artificial intelligence and automated systems rather than biological integration. The presence of organic components suggested either fundamental changes in their society or the involvement of other species. Khan suddenly lifted his massive head, his golden eyes focusing on something beyond human perception. The great cat's posture shifted to full alertness, and a low growl resonated from his chest. Not the threatening sound of an angry predator, but the warning call of a pack leader detecting danger. Khan's responding to something, Major Reeves reported, his hand moving instinctively to rest on the tiger's head. His senses are detecting threats that our equipment isn't registering. As if summoned by the tiger's warning, emergency alarms began echoing through the station's corridors. The approaching fleet had increased velocity beyond predicted capabilities and would achieve weapons range in less than 2 hours rather than the previously calculated 6. Panic began spreading through the council chamber as delegates received updates from their respective fleets. The defensive forces gathered around the station were being rapidly outmaneuvered by vessels that appeared capable of tactical decisions no artificial intelligence should be able to make. They're not following predictable approach patterns, reported the Krathon fleet commander through emergency channels. Voidstalker vessels are coordinating with efficiency that suggests biological command integration, but historical records indicate they were entirely artificial intelligences. Sarah made a decision that would either save the station or condemn humanity's application to catastrophic failure. Admiral Torres, I'm authorizing implementation of Protocol 7. Major Reeves, prepare Khan, and Sasha for emergency evacuation to the human fleet. Admiral Torres nodded grimly. Protocol 7 was humanity's most classified military doctrine, the integration of human-animal partnerships into fleet operations. No other species in the galaxy had ever attempted to use biological intelligence enhancement in space warfare, and the risks were enormous. Negative on the evacuation, Ambassador, Major Reeves replied. Khan and are more effective working together than separated. If Protocol 7 is being implemented, we need to be at the center of operations. The Tiger's response to his partner's decision was immediate and unmistakable. Khan moved closer to Major Reeves and settled into a position that clearly indicated readiness to face whatever dangers emerged. Even Sasha seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, moving to a protected position near her father while maintaining visual contact with the humans she had learned to trust. Dr. Webb activated emergency communication protocols, linking his research equipment directly to the human fleet's tactical systems. I'm uploading everything we've learned about interspecies cooperation and biological intelligence integration. If we're going to try something the galaxy has never seen before, our captains need every advantage we can provide. The first Void Stalker vessel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, and immediately the strategic situation became clear. The ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the largest Council vessels, but its design incorporated biological elements that created structural weaknesses no purely mechanical construction would possess. There, Khan's growl directed Major Reeves' attention to sensor readings that human technology might have missed. The Tiger's instinctive understanding of biological systems had identified something that purely analytical approaches had overlooked. The organic components aren't integrated technology, Dr. Webb realized, his excitement breaking through the surrounding tension. They're parasitic. Something has infected the Void Stalker vessels and is using their technological infrastructure as a host platform. The revelation changed everything. The approaching fleet wasn't representing the return of an extinct species, but rather evidence of something far more dangerous. A parasitic intelligence that had converted Void Stalker technology into biological weapon systems. Admiral Torres immediately began coordinating with the Council's defensive forces, sharing the human analysis, and proposing tactical adjustments based on the new understanding of their enemy. If we're facing biological parasites using mechanical hosts, conventional weapons may be ineffective. We need to target the biological components while avoiding damage to the underlying technological systems. The second phase of the crisis began when the parasitic vessels demonstrated capabilities that exceeded even enhanced Void Stalker technology. Energy weapons that adapted their frequencies to overcome defensive shields, tactical coordination that suggested genuine biological intelligence, and structural modifications that improved on the original designs. But the human fleet's response demonstrated something that astonished every observer monitoring the engagement. Instead of operating as individual vessels under centralized command, the human ships began coordinating with the fluid efficiency of a pack hunting strategy. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication channel with calm confidence. All human vessels implement cooperative protocol. Remember your training with biological intelligence integration. We're not fighting machines, we're hunting parasites. The effectiveness of the human tactical approach became immediately apparent as their smaller, less heavily armed vessels began outmaneuvering the massive parasitic ships through coordination that resembled Khan, and Major Reeves' partnership expanded to fleet scale. Sarah watched the engagement unfold on the chamber's displays, realizing that humanity was not only defending the Council station, but demonstrating military capabilities that would fundamentally change galactic perceptions of human society. The parasitic fleet had expected to face conventional resistance based on individual vessel capabilities and hierarchical command structures. Instead, they encountered cooperative tactics that treated the entire human fleet as a single biological entity, with each ship filling the role of a different organ in a larger organism. Impossible, whispered Vaxthara, its crystalline form cycling through colors that indicated complete bewilderment. Individual vessels cannot coordinate with biological efficiency. Mechanical systems require hierarchical command protocols. Dr. Webb smiled grimly as he monitored the tactical displays. Human vessels aren't operating under hierarchical command protocols. They're using the same cooperative intelligence that allows Khan and Major Reeves to function as a single tactical unit, scaled up to fleet operations. The engagement continued for 3 hours, with the human fleet gradually gaining tactical advantage through coordination strategies that the parasitic intelligence couldn't predict or counter. But the real breakthrough came when Khan's biological instincts provided information that human technology couldn't detect. The Great Cat's response to subtle vibrations and electromagnetic patterns revealed the location of the parasitic fleet's command nexus, a disguised vessel that was coordinating the entire assault through biological communication methods that resembled pheromone transmission, but operated in electromagnetic spectrum. Major Reeves translated Khan's sensory input into tactical intelligence that Captain Morrison could use, demonstrating the practical application of human-animal partnership in space warfare. The targeting information allowed human vessels to identify and disable the command ship, breaking the parasitic fleet's coordination and forcing them to retreat to regroup. As the immediate threat passed, Sarah realized that the crisis had accomplished something that months of diplomatic negotiations might not have achieved. Humanity had not only proven their capability as council members, but had demonstrated military concepts that could revolutionize galactic defense strategies. The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence as they contemplated the implications of what they had witnessed. The species they had initially dismissed as primitive had just successfully defended the council station using tactics that no other galactic civilization had imagined possible. But even as victory celebrations began, everyone understood that this was only the beginning of a larger conflict. The parasitic intelligence had retreated, but not been destroyed, and its capabilities suggested threats that might challenge the survival of galactic civilization itself. 6 months after the parasitic fleet's retreat, the Galactic Council Chamber hosted a gathering unlike any in recorded history. Representatives from 47 species filled the amphitheater, including delegations from civilizations that had maintained isolation for centuries. The crisis had forced every intelligent species to confront the reality that traditional approaches to warfare and defense were inadequate against threats that operated outside conventional parameters. Sarah Chun stood at the central podium, no longer the nervous ambassador seeking acceptance for humanity's application. The events of the past months had transformed her role from supplicant to strategic advisor, as species after species requested human assistance in developing cooperative defense protocols. The transformation in galactic attitudes had been remarkable and swift. The effectiveness of human-animal partnerships in combat situations had prompted widespread research into biological intelligence integration, while the success of cooperative fleet tactics had revolutionized military thinking across dozens of worlds. Admiral Torres occupied a position of honor among the assembled military commanders, his expertise in cooperative strategy now considered essential to galactic defense planning. The preliminary reports from worlds that had implemented human-inspired tactical doctrines showed dramatic improvements in defensive capabilities and crisis response times. Major Reeves and Khan had become legendary figures throughout the galaxy, their partnerships serving as a model for similar programs being developed by species brave enough to challenge their own preconceptions about predator relationships. The Great Cat remained as calm and confident as ever, but Sarah could see that he had adapted to his new status with the dignified bearing of a natural ambassador. Sasha had grown considerably during the intervening months, her playful cub energy maturing into the focused attention of a young predator beginning to understand her role in the larger pack. The young tiger had become a symbol of hope for many species, representing the possibility that cooperation could be learned and inherited rather than forced. Dr. Webb presented his findings to the assembled scientific council, sharing 6 months of research data that documented the biological and psychological mechanisms underlying successful interspecies cooperation. His work had attracted collaborators from across the galaxy, creating the first truly galactic scientific research project in recorded history. The neurological evidence is conclusive, Dr. Webb reported, his analysis displayed on holographic screens throughout the chamber. Species that develop cooperative rather than dominance-based relationships show enhanced cognitive flexibility, improved tactical thinking, and increased resilience under stress conditions. The Crayathon delegate, Zwiexthera, had undergone a remarkable philosophical transformation. Its crystalline form now displayed contemplative blue-green colors more often than the aggressive reds and purples that had characterized its early interactions with humanity. Human concepts of cooperative strength have forced comprehensive reevaluation of Crayathon military doctrine. Preliminary trials with volunteer biological partners show promising results. The revelation that the proud, crystalline Crayathon were experimenting with biological cooperation had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Their success in developing partnerships with energy-based life forms from their homeworld had created defensive capabilities that exceeded their previous individual prowess. But the most dramatic changes had occurred among species that had initially been most skeptical of human approaches. The Skrull, whose boulder-like forms had seemed incompatible with any type of partnership, had developed remarkable relationships with symbiotic organisms that enhanced their already formidable physical capabilities. Cooperation reveals strength previously unknown, the Skrull ambassador admitted, its grinding voice carrying notes of what might have been wonderment. Individual Skrull warriors bonded with Crystal Singers demonstrate combat effectiveness that exceeds traditional battle forms by significant factors. The Veltar had perhaps shown the most dramatic adaptation. Their naturally solitary nature, transformed through partnerships with hive-mind insects that created collective intelligence networks spanning entire fleets. Their military effectiveness had improved by orders of magnitude, while maintaining the individual autonomy that defined their species. Sarah activated the chamber's main display, showing a galactic map that would have been unrecognizable to observers from just 1 year earlier. Green indicators marked systems where cooperative defense protocols had been successfully implemented, while red zones showed areas still vulnerable to parasitic infiltration. The parasitic intelligence hasn't been idle during our defensive preparations, she announced, her voice carrying the authority earned through months of successful crisis management. Our long-range reconnaissance has identified at least 12 systems where the parasite has established permanent footholds, converting both biological and mechanical resources into hybrid war forms. The strategic situation had evolved into something resembling a galactic immune response, with cooperative civilizations serving as antibodies against a parasitic infection that threatened to consume all intelligent life. The metaphor was more than philosophical. Dr. Webb's research had revealed that the parasite literally functioned as a galactic disease, converting healthy civilizations into destructive extensions of itself. Admiral Torres presented the latest intelligence reports, showing parasitic vessels that had grown beyond their original Void Stalker templates. The enemy is adapting to our cooperative tactics, developing counter-strategies that target the biological components of partnership bonds. We're facing an opponent that learns and evolves faster than any traditional threat. Major Reeves stepped forward, Khan moving beside him with a fluid grace that had become familiar to observers throughout the galaxy. The parasite's adaptations confirm something we've suspected from the beginning. This isn't just a military conflict. It's an evolutionary competition between two different approaches to intelligence and survival. The Great Cat's presence in the chamber had become a powerful symbol, representing not just human capabilities, but the potential for all species to transcend their biological limitations through willing cooperation. Khan's calm confidence radiated throughout the amphitheater, providing a reassuring reminder that apex predators could choose alliance over dominance. Sasha had taken her position near the central display, her young mind already beginning to grasp the complex strategic concepts being discussed. The growing tiger's ability to understand and respond to multi-species communication had amazed xenobiologists, suggesting that cooperative intelligence might be more fundamental to biological development than previously understood. The hegemony representative, its mechanical form enhanced with new biological integration modules, presented the latest technological developments. Hybrid intelligence systems combining mechanical precision with biological creativity show effectiveness factors exceeding pure artificial intelligence by 300%. Cooperative protocols enable capabilities that neither biological nor mechanical systems can achieve independently. The transformation of the hegemony from purely artificial intelligences to hybrid biomechanical entities represented perhaps the most radical adaptation to human concepts. Their willingness to integrate biological components into their core systems had created technological capabilities that seemed almost magical to other species. Dr. Webb activated his most significant research breakthrough, displaying neural network models that showed how cooperative intelligence functioned at the quantum level. Partnership bonds create quantum entanglement effects between biological consciousnesses, enabling instantaneous information sharing across any distance. The parasite can't replicate this phenomenon because it operates through dominance rather than cooperation. The implications were staggering. Cooperative partnerships didn't just provide tactical advantages. They created communication capabilities that transcended the normal limitations of space and time. Fleet commanders linked through biological partnerships could coordinate strategies across galactic distances with perfect synchronization. The quantum entanglement explains how Khan and Major Reeves can coordinate without visible communication, Sarah added, watching as the scientific implications sank in among the assembled delegates. Their partnership creates a shared consciousness that maintains individual autonomy while enabling perfect tactical coordination. Khan demonstrated the principle by responding to Major Reeves' unspoken intentions, moving to positions and performing actions that the human had planned but never communicated. The display of seamless cooperation provided concrete evidence of capabilities that defied conventional understanding of biological relationships. The session continued for hours as species after species reported successful implementations of cooperative protocols adapted to their unique biological and cultural requirements. The diversity of approaches had created a galactic defense network that was simultaneously unified in purpose and incredibly varied in methodology. But the most significant development came when the Chamber's emergency communication systems activated, bringing news that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Captain Morrison's voice reached them across impossible distances, carried by quantum entanglement communication networks that had been established between all cooperative partnerships. Council Station, this is the UES Harmony reporting from the Andromeda interface. We've made contact with refugee populations from parasitic invasions in neighboring galaxies. The revelation that the parasitic intelligence had already consumed entire galaxies sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. The threat was far larger than anyone had imagined, representing not just a danger to their own civilization, but to intelligent life throughout the universe. The refugees report that their galaxies fell because they couldn't achieve cooperative unity in time. Captain Morrison continued. Individual species fought the parasites separately, allowing it to consume each civilization in isolation. We may be the first galaxy to develop effective cooperative defenses before total infection. Sarah felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders like a collapsed star. Humanity had not only found their place among the galactic community, they had become essential to its survival and potential role as a beacon of hope for the universe itself. Admiral Torres began coordinating with refugee fleet commanders, sharing cooperative protocols, and inviting survivors to participate in the expanding galactic defense network. The diversity of alien refugees would strengthen their collective capabilities while providing new perspectives on parasitic countermeasures. Khan's response to the cosmic implications was characteristically practical. The Great Cat simply moved closer to his human partner, reaffirming the bond that had started as a simple military partnership and evolved into a symbol of hope for universal cooperation. Sasha followed her father's example, settling beside the adult tigers with the calm confidence of a young predator who knew her place in a pack that now included species from multiple galaxies. Her presence reminded everyone that cooperation could be learned and passed on to future generations. As the emergency session concluded, Sarah realized that they had moved beyond questions of council membership or even galactic defense. The principles that humanity had brought to the peace talks, cooperation, willing alliance, and the strength that comes from unity rather than dominance, had become the foundation for a new form of civilization that might spread beyond their galaxy to heal the universe itself. The parasitic intelligence represented the ultimate expression of dominance and consumption, converting everything it touched into extensions of its own will. But cooperation created something the parasite couldn't understand or replicate, a form of intelligence that grew stronger through diversity rather than uniformity. The war between cooperation and parasitic dominance would determine not only the survival of their galaxy, but the future evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. And at the center of that cosmic struggle stood a human soldier and his tiger partner, representing the simple truth that strength comes not from conquering others, but from choosing to stand together. The galaxy had asked for a demonstration of human capabilities. Instead, they had received a new understanding of what intelligent life could become when guided by cooperation rather than competition. The universe would never be the same, and perhaps that was exactly what it needed to survive the darkness spreading between stars.